Hello and welcome to another video. Today we are doing a full hour mat Pilates. It'll be beginner to advanced, so there'll be loads of variations for everybody to work through. We'll start as usual with our feet at the back of the mat and our feet in our parallel position, the same width as our cheekbones. From here, if you can, inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale, lean over to your right hand side and just circle that right arm. Just warming up the rotator cuff a little bit and then circling the opposite way. Inhale up and over to the opposite side. Just breathing and just circling that arm. And then we're going to circle the opposite way. Lifting both arms up. Just take a little peek up to that ceiling for me. And then just gently drop those arms in front, keeping shoulders in shoulder sockets. From here, we're going to do our bow and arrow. So we're going to inhale and bring our right arm towards us, as if you were pulling that bow. Twist the upper body and extend that right arm behind. Slowly exhale, bring that arm back in front. We'll do the same with the left. Inhale, bow and arrow back, we twist, we extend the arm. And then exhale back round. Just keep this going, and I want you to really think of your hip bones. I want them to shine forwards. Imagine they're like car lights, they're shining forwards. We're not twisting the lower half of the body. Just getting a little bit of movement through that thoracic spine. And we'll do one more here. Releasing forward, letting those arms drop, maybe just doing a few shoulder rolls, just to make sure we've not had any tension in the upper body. From there, we're going to open the arms to the side. Now I want you to imagine you're holding a really big beach ball, so we're not directly out, we've got a little bit of a bend. We're going to take a big breath in. As we exhale, pulse to the right twice. Inhale, middle. And then exhale to the side. And just keep that going. This is just waking up our centre, our tummy muscles a little bit. Using that little pulse to help us. And do one more for me. And back to the middle, dropping those arms down. Again, maybe doing a few shoulder rolls if you've been feeling a little bit tight at the top. From here, we'll do our first roll down. So we'll bring our chin down, tuck that pelvis under, and slowly start to roll down, looking at your legs, holding no tension in the back of that neck, and just trying to go down as far as you feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be too far at the start of class. Holding at the bottom for a second. And then just bending the knees, walking the hands out and coming into our 4-point tabletop or our hands and knees position. Try and get those hands under the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips, and we'll start with our cat stretch or our cat cow. So exhale, round that back, pushing the shirt up to the ceiling. And then inhale, bring the belly down and that head and bottom will lift up. Exhale, we round, pushing that shirt up. And then inhale, belly down, head and bottom lift. And do that one more time. Exhale, round. And then inhale, belly down, head and bottom lift. Coming back into our flat back, we'll take a little bit of a look around our right shoulder as if you've sat in something and you want to see what you've sat in. And then back through centre over to the other side. Back to the middle and just put your feet and your knees together and then just push push down into what we call our rest position. If this is really uncomfortable, you can open the knees up into more of a child's pose position. But if we can, feet and knees together, more traditional, and just help stretch that back out a little bit more. Perfect. Coming back onto our hands and knees, our tabletop position. We'll do some of what we call our bird dog exercises. So this is where we try and challenge our balance just a little bit. We'll take our left leg back, our right arm forward. We're going to inhale, lift. Exhale, try and slide them back into place. Other side. Inhale, we lift up. Exhale, we lower. Really thinking of zipping that belly button up towards the ceiling, like you're trying to get on that tight pair of jeans that we've all got in the wardrobe somewhere. Really trying to keep those hip bones shining down towards that mat. Making sure that leg doesn't lift too high. We don't want it to go up too much into our back muscles. Beautiful. Last one here on each side. And again, pushing into that rest position or that child's pose, whichever one you prefer. Just taking some nice big deep breaths. And again, coming back up onto those hands and knees, last time here. So we're going to make this a little bit harder, trying to concentrate on one side if we can. So we'll take our right leg back, left arm forward. We're going to inhale and lift. Option here is to just exhale, tap the hand and the foot back down, and inhale, lift back up. If you wish, you could exhale and hug the knee and the elbow in towards the belly, and then inhale back out. Really up to you and what you want to do today. And release, we'll switch sides. So same thing, you could just lift and lower, or holding up and bringing the knee and the elbow in. And relax for me. Come and sit on your bottom with your legs out in front of you. So, I know I mention it every time, but if we can, we want a nice straight posture. So if that means you've got to have your knees bent, that's perfectly fine. Because I'd rather you have your knees bent in a nice good posture than having your legs out straight and looking a little bit like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So totally your choice where your hamstring length is at the moment. Have those arms out in front, that slight bend, and we're going to exhale, push forward as if you're trying to touch the wall in front. And then inhale, restack back up. Think of it like that roll down. We exhale, chin down slightly, uncurl that spine forward. And inhale, release, restacking all the way. So just keep that going, just going forward and back. And then last one. Coming all the way back up, again circling those shoulders for the moment. We'll open the legs the width of the mat now, and we're going to go into what we call our saw prep. So again, you could have the knees bent, it's not a problem. One arm on top of the other if we can in our genie position. So we're going to imagine there's a nice line coming down the middle of that mat between our legs. So we're going to inhale and twist to the right. Put your left hand on that pretend line and exhale, come forward, looking back at that right elbow. And then we'll inhale, twist to the opposite side, right hand down, exhale, forward. So we're really trying to get some nice movement in that upper back. We're stretching down the back as well. Really being mindful of not letting those legs and that pelvis move side to side. The big giveaway there is if you can feel your legs moving up and down the mat. more for me on each side. And release. Perfect. We're going to come down onto our mat now. So feet on the floor, knees bent. And we're just going to find our neutral spine, and then we can do some of our bridges. So imagine that pelvis is a clock. 6 o'clock belly button, 12 o'clock is your groin area or your hip bones. We're going to make sure that the ankles are underneath the knees. We take a big breath in. As we exhale, we push the back onto the mat to our 6 o'clock position, our belly button. We inhale through the nose and tilt the opposite way, creating this lovely big gap underneath the back. Exhale, we push down. Inhale, we tilt up. And just doing some nice, slow pelvic tilts, waking up the bottom of that back a little bit more. Maybe you've been sat down a lot today at work, or maybe even stood up a lot, and we just want to make sure that pelvis has got a nice range of motion. We're going to come down halfway between the two extremes, making sure you can still get a hand underneath that back. That's your neutral spine. So we're going to do some of our shoulder bridges. So we're going to put our arms down next to us. Take a big breath in. Exhale, push the back onto the mat, that 6 o'clock position. Lift the bottom, the middle back, the upper back. So we're in this lovely diagonal line, making sure that pelvis is straight. Take a big breath in. And exhale, roll down, top of the back, the middle, that 6 o'clock position. Onto the back of the pelvis, inhaling into that neutral. So I'm not too anal with the breathing. We just want to try and get that nice rocking of the back up and down off the mat, one bone at a time, using those bum muscles to help us in our leg muscles. And just taking a little bit of time, getting that mind and body connection so we know exactly where we are, making sure pelvis straight, we haven't dipped down. Hold at the bottom on your next one in your neutral position and just rock those knees side to side, getting a little bit of space down that side body. Maybe you find a bit of a sore spot and you want to hold over a little bit longer. And then back to your middle, resetting yourself back up, ankles under knees, knees in line with hips, slight gap underneath that back. We're going to do that bridge again. Options here. Beginners keeping the arms down, if you're a little bit unstable, or if you want to, trying to lift the arms up to the ceiling. We'll take a big breath in. Exhale, we push the back down, same thing, rolling all the way up the spine. Inhaling at the top, and then slowly rolling down. If you've got your arms lifted, this may be a little bit harder. And just keep going with that movement. Now really be mindful that you're not pushing yourself up the mat. You need to feel like you're pulling yourself down the mat a little bit so that you can really feel the back of your leg, because it is a bit of cramp territory, I will warn you. But it's a good practice to get into, to feel like you're pulling yourself down that mat just so the back of your legs are really working. And we're going to hold up on the next one. From here, if you can and you've got your arms lifted, just put them back down by your sides. We're going to start by trying to lift and lower one heel at a time. So you can go right then left, trying to keep pelvis steady. If this is working for you, let's try and lift one leg into tabletop, so knee over the hip. Nice and gentle again, making sure we're not tilting that pelvis down. This can be quite hard. We're choosing whichever option you prefer. And relaxing all the way back onto that mat, rocking those knees side to side. Perfect. Now from here we're going to come into our neutral spine again, always making sure when we're lying on our back that we have this neutral spine, and this is going to help us with our tummy work as well as our leg work. From here we're going to lift both legs into our tabletop position. Notice how your back automatically goes down onto the mat. That is why we have that lovely little gap there. Try and keep the knees over the hips. We're going to try some toe taps. So from here we're keeping that knee joint the same, but we're pushing the thigh away, attempting to touch the toe down. Exhale, we lift. Inhale, other side. Exhale, lift. Now if you can't touch down to actually feel the mat with your toe, just go a couple of inches. You're still using the same muscles. You're still using those lovely tummy muscles, but we're just not straining the back. We don't want to feel any pressure or pain in the bottom of the spine. If this is working for you, you could try lifting your arms up, making this a little bit harder. Inhale, we tap. Exhale, we come back up. And releasing the feet back down, maybe stretching those arms behind, giving those tummy muscles a little bit of a break. Taking some nice big deep breaths in and out. And then coming back into that same position, into our tabletop. Now feel free to keep the arms down if you want. If the arms are lifted, you can keep them there. But if you want that extra challenge, you're going to tap one toe down and the opposite arm's going to come behind. And then exhale back to that middle position. Inhale, we open. Exhale, we close. But again, you can take whichever variation you prefer. We've always got something we can work up towards doing. And then just hug those knees into the chest, rocking that back side to side. A little bit of a lumbar massage. And from here we'll come on to our single leg stretch. So we're going to hug our left leg into our chest. Our right leg can either go to the ceiling with a slight bend, 45 degrees in front, and if you're feeling extra strong today, lifting that head and shoulders off the mat. No tension in that neck though. We're going to inhale, gently switch legs. Exhale, switch. Inhale. And exhale. Just taking nice and slow. The slower the movement, the harder it becomes. Just one more each side. And releasing the feet back down. Just taking a second, letting everything reset. We're back in our neutral spine. Nice big deep breath in and out, and then we'll go back to our last tummy exercise for the moment. What we're going to do is our scissors. So we're going to lengthen our left leg up to the ceiling, even if it's got that bend in it, grabbing behind the thigh. And that right leg can be at 45 degrees. So here's your more beginner intermediate position. At any point, if you want to, you could lift your head and your shoulders up. You could drop that leg a little bit closer to the floor, or you could grab that other leg a little bit higher. But again, totally up to you. But we're going to inhale, pull back twice. Exhale, switch, pull back twice. So you could be head on the floor, just doing a very small pulse, and that's perfectly fine. The aim of this one here is to not only use the tummy muscles, but to lengthen those legs a little bit. Keeping that back on that mat. And release. Feet on the floor, knees bent. Maybe you want to lengthen those legs out instead, taking the arms behind, stretching out those tummy muscles. And then we're going to come onto our right hand side. Perfect. So we're going to use our arm as a pillow if we can. front of the mat, foot near the bottom. Top leg could be nice and long with a small micro bend in it, just so that we're actually using our leg muscles. So here's more beginner position. Intermediate advanced, we're going to actually lengthen that leg to the front corner of the mat and having the top leg long. Totally up to you. This top hand could be supporting you. We've got a slight lift in that waistline, so we're using our tummy muscles. And we're just going to lift and lower that top leg. Now it doesn't have to be high. It's not about height, it's about control. So that foot and thigh are pointing forwards. Just taking that nice lift and lower for our side leg series. Beautiful. We're going to hold up on this next one, circle that leg, little circles, about the same size as a tennis ball. And circling the opposite way. Bringing that leg down so it's in line with that top hip. We're going to flex the foot. Exhale, slowly bring it forward. Point, take that leg back to straight. Flex, we bring it forward. Point back to straight. So it doesn't have to be a big movement forward and back. It could be quite small as long as you've got that control. We're trying to keep the body quiet, as we say, so we're not moving backwards and forwards. Just that leg that's moving. On this next one, we're going to point that toe, take that leg back to the back corner of the mat, or as far back as you can without flaring the ribs. I want you to imagine now that you're riding a bicycle, so you're going to bring that knee in towards the chest, extend and go back round. So you can point and flex that foot if you want, or you can just take the point and flex out, that's totally up to you. We're going around, pretending we're bicycling, nice big circles. And then maybe you want to pedal backwards. My dad always used to tell me off for doing this on my bike, because I used to make the chain come off. Beautiful, put that top leg on the bottom leg, just give that bottom a little bit of a tap. And then we're going to bend the knees at the front of the mat, feet near the bottom for our clam, and we're just going to open and close that top knee. Aim here not to let that pelvis open, it's still stacked. Knees are in line when they come together, because the big telltale sign if you've moved is if one of those knees is too far back. And release, lengthen both legs down that mat, we are nearly done. We're in a nice straight line now. We're going to lift that top leg a couple of inches, bring the bottom leg to meet it and lower together. So it's a lift, lift and lower. Inhale, inhale, exhale. Trying to keep the toes facing forward, either with a flex or just a relaxed foot, because sometimes we can sickle that bottom foot, desperate to let it lift. And we don't want that for that poor ankle. Try and hold at the top on this next one, and we're going to swing one leg forward, one leg back. Less exercise here. Just for a few. And release. Give that bottom a little bit of a tap. We'll come round to our other side. The only unfortunate thing about having two legs is that you have to do the other side. So we'll set ourselves back up. Beginner intermediate, knee at the front of the mat, foot near the bottom. Or that bottom leg could be aiming towards the corner of the mat. We've got our pelvis stacked, tummy muscles turned on, slight lift in that waistline, and we're lifting and lowering. Thigh and that foot are facing forward and not up. Holding at the top, circling that leg, little circles, same size as a tennis ball. Circling the opposite way. And then lowering that leg in line with that top hip, flex the foot. Exhale, we come forward, point, we come back to straight. So again, it could be quite a small movement. As long as it's controlled, we're happy. You're always going to have one side a little bit harder than the other. This is my harder side, the side that I find a little bit harder to control, and that's fine, we just work on it. And then when you're ready, going into that bicycle movement, taking the leg a little bit further back, bending the knee, coming out and around. And then maybe you want to pedal the opposite direction. Releasing that top leg onto the bottom leg. You can give it a bit of a pat if you want. Knees near the front of the mat, feet near the bottom, opening and closing into our clam. Again, trying our best to not let that pelvis rock open if we can help it. Beautiful, lengthen those legs down nice and straight. We're going to lift the top leg, bring the bottom leg to meet it, lower together. Lift, lift and lower. Trying not to sickle that bottom foot. Holding at the top on this next one, swing one leg forward, one leg back. And release for me, giving that bottom a little bit of a tap. From here, just roll onto your tummy for me. And what we're going to do is our little variations of our swim. So we're going to have our hands in line with the head, elbows tucked in. Forehead's going to be down. I'll keep mine lifted just so you can hear me. Bringing your forehead down. Toes are pointing back. We're going to inhale, lift the head and the chest up, still looking at our mat. And then exhale, come down. Remembering to use your tummy muscles. So really feeling like you've got maybe like an uncomfortable pebble underneath your tummy button. Just anything that makes you want to bring that belly button up off the mat. It's just that sensation to help our back. We use our tummy muscles. If you want to, you could start to lift the hands off the mat just to test the water. See if you can keep that hold up. And then maybe you want to squeeze the elbows behind just to really activate all those lovely postural muscles. Our lats. And relax a second. Give that back a little bit of a wiggle side to side. Beautiful, we'll try that one more time. So either you're coming up with your forearms down, maybe you're lifting your hands, maybe you're squeezing the elbows behind, your choice. Just doing a few more here. Last one. And release. Just bring your hands in front so you're using your hands as a pillow so you can put your forehead down. I'll leave my head lifted so you can hear me. We're just going to start lifting and lowering one leg at a time at the back. So we're trying to keep the hip bone on the mat. We're not lifting the pelvis. Just getting a little bit of length through the front of the leg. Really using that glute, that bottom, back of the legs to lift. And release a second, giving those hips a little bit of a wiggle side to side. Option here to stay with that and just lift and lower one leg at a time, or trying to lift both legs at the same time. And this is really good for our swan prep, when we get to do the swan at some point. And release. Just push up and over into that rest position. We always like to have a flexion to that spine when we've been doing some extension work. And just holding there for a second. Nice big deep breaths in and out. And then just coming to lie down on your mat on your back for me. We're going to just do some of our leg circle work, and this is also going to come into then our back stretches. So we're on our back. We'll lengthen our left leg onto the mat. Our right leg will be in our tabletop position. Okay, from here, what we're going to do is slowly take that leg over to the left hand side. So we're lifting that right bottom cheek up. Inhale, we come back to middle. Exhale, it slowly goes over to the right, keeping that left hip bone down, because a lot of the time we lift the pelvis. It's only a small movement out. Back to middle and back over. So whichever breathing works for you. Just inhale and exhale, making that nice slow movement, a bit of an active stretch for that spine. And if you want to, when you're ready, you could make this into a circle. So imagine you've got a crayon or something stuck to your knee. You want to draw this big circle on the ceiling. So you'll take the leg over to the left, push the knee away as you come back to the middle. The leg slowly goes out to the right and back around to the middle again. So you're just really adding a little bit of movement into that thigh. But if this is too much for you, just carry on going left and right. Maybe you want to try and circle the opposite way. And then whenever you're ready, just hold that leg over to the left hand side, put the left hand on the knee, open the right arm out, looking at those right fingertips, our nice lumbar stretch here. And just really holding into that position. Coming back to the centre, resetting yourself on the mat. We're going to do the other side now. So right leg on the mat, left leg tabletop. We're slowly going to take that leg over to the right, the left bum cheek lifts, middle, and open that knee to the left, making sure that right hip bone isn't moving, because like I said, we tend to lift it. Back to middle, over to the right. So just get that sensation of left and right first, and then whenever you're ready, making that into that circle. So once you're comfortable, you can start to move that hip joint around. You might even feel a little bit of a clicking sensation if your hip flexor is a little bit tight, but that's no problem. And then circling the opposite direction. My hip flexor is making some lovely noises right now. Holding over to the right, right hand on the knee, opening the left arm out, looking at the left fingertips. Holding that lovely stretch. And back to the centre, putting both feet on the floor, knees bent. We'll just do a few more pelvic tilts, 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock, just resetting that spine after that movement. Just breathing however you fancy, in through the nose and out through the mouth, whichever feels best. And then just coming into that neutral spine, we're going to now stretch out the backs of our legs. So I'm going to hook my left leg into my chest behind the thigh. And what I'm going to do is hook the leg in and then attempt to straighten that leg. Even if that leg's got to come forward, that's not a problem. Even if it needs a slight bend, we're just bending the knee in and lengthening up. Getting some nice movement through the backs of those legs. A little bit of movement into that knee. Maybe you want to hold the leg nice and straight now, and maybe you want to point and flex that foot. And this just gets a little bit deeper into the calf muscle. This is actually really good for the feet as well, because we spend all our time in shoes and they tend to have a little bit of an arch in them, and it means we don't get to use what we call our dorsiflexion and our plantar flexion very much. It's great to have a bit of movement in that ankle. From here, take that left ankle, put it on the right leg, open the knee out to the side for me, making sure we haven't dropped the left hip. So we've just opened up to the side. If that's okay for you, stay there. But if you want, taking both hands behind the back of the right leg, lifting the right leg into tabletop, into our figure 4. Now this might give you quite an intense stretch down your bottom, then that's fine. Just trying to hold there, taking some nice deep breaths in and out. And release. We'll now do the same for that right leg, so feet on the floor, hugging in the right leg behind the thigh, and we bend the knee into the chest and then lengthen up, and remember you can have that little bend in that knee. Stretching should never be painful. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but never what we call painful. And maybe holding that leg up, and then just doing that point and flex of the foot. Plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. Definitely a wee bit tighter on this leg today. And then putting that right ankle on the left leg, opening the right knee up, just getting yourself ready to lift that left leg whenever you're ready into tabletop, grabbing behind the backs of the leg. And just holding in your figure 4. Nice big deep breaths in and out. And releasing feet onto the floor. We'll just do a few shoulder drops just to open up the shoulders, so we're going to have the fingertips pointing up towards the ceiling. Making sure we're in our neutral spine if we can. We're going to inhale, lift one arm up as high as you can, and then exhale, drop it into position. Inhale up the other side, exhale, drop. This might feel a little bit funny on the shoulders. It's really good for the rotator cuff, really good for our shoulder girdle. And release for me. You can either roll up or you can just sit up, whichever one you want to do. If you want to roll up, just gently bringing the arms over and taking that nice roll into a seated position. From here, going onto your hands and knees again, we'll do a few more cat stretch. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And we'll exhale round the spine, pushing that shirt up to the ceiling. And then inhale, bringing the belly down, head and bottom lift up. Exhaling round. Inhale, belly down, head and bottom lift. And then just pushing into that rest position, feet and knees together. Beautiful. We've stretched out the back of the legs. We now really need to stretch out the front of the legs, rearranging clothing where needed. So I'm now at the back quarter of my mat on my knees. So I'm going to bring my left foot forward and I'm just going to come into a lunge position. I've tucked my pelvis under ever so slightly. This is just giving me quite an intense stretch down my hip flexor. If that little tilt under's too much, just naturally sink down into this lunge position. But that tilt just helps us really stretch down this leg. trying to sink a little bit deeper, trying to put the fingertips or the hands on the floor. That knee should be directly over the ankle, not over the toe. Now we've got some options here. If you're quite comfortable with this back knee down, feel free to keep it down. You can follow the rest with the knee down. If you want a little bit of a deeper stretch, tucking the right toes underneath at the back and trying to lift the knee up. Or just keeping the knee down, like I said, is not a problem. Keep your right hand on the floor. See if you can lift your left arm up to the ceiling. Bringing the hand back down, knee comes down. And then we're just going to do the other side. So we'll switch, right leg comes forward. And again, a little bit of a pelvic tilt under, just to get that nice stretch down that hip flexor. You'll always have one side a little bit more tight than the other. And then when you're ready, trying to sink down either with fingertips or maybe you get your hands down. And again, choices here, either keeping the back knee down or maybe you want to turn the left toes under, lifting the left knee. And then keep the left hand down, twist so the right arm's reaching, you're looking at those fingertips. And then bringing the hand down, knee comes down, and then we'll just take that leg behind us again. Perfect. From here we'll do a bit of an elephant stretch. You may know it as down dog, but open those fingertips nice and wide for me. We're going to take one leg back, then the other into that plank position, and lift that bottom nice and high. Now remember, I would rather you have a bent knee and a straight back, so you're really aiming to get your ears between those arms and that tailbone up. And then if you want to, you can start looking at just prancing one heel down, then the other. But you don't have to have the heels touching. The main thing is that lovely, gorgeous straight back, stretching through the shoulders, and then with time getting those heels a little bit closer down. Mindfully walk those hands back in towards the feet, bending the knees, rolling up through that spine, and coming to stand. We're going to have our feet in our parallel position again for me, so same width as those cheekbones. We're going to inhale, lift the arms up, exhale, go over to the right, circle that right arm. How we did at the start, and then circle the opposite way. Inhale, lift up and over to the left, same thing, circling that left arm this time. And circling the opposite way. Coming back to centre, dropping that right arm down. From here, if you can, interlinking your fingers behind the back here. If that's not possible, you can just literally point your fingertips, it's not a problem. But if you can, interlinking the fingers, stretching the arms back and down and just lifting that gaze up, opening the front of the chest just a little bit. Releasing the arms, few shoulder rolls there. And then we'll come and try our roll down. So chin comes down, pelvis tilts under, and we slowly start to roll down for me. Just seeing what length we may have gained through class, letting that head hang nice and heavy, shaking yes and no with that head. If you can, staying there for a second, bending your right knee, keeping your left leg straight. And then switching, bending your left knee, keeping your right leg straight. Straightening both knees, slowly coming up that spine, one bone at a time, resetting all the way back up. And then from here we'll just do a few shoulder and neck stretches, so I'll come to face you. So we're going to have arms down by the side. Push the right arm down. We're not bending, we're just having a nice little push down. From here, take the left hand, put it on the right hand side of the cheek and just bring the head over to the left. You should get a nice stretch down the neck. Just releasing the neck back forward. Just take a little look, about 45 degrees, so nothing too far. Taking the left hand behind the back of the head and bringing the chin down towards the chest. As if you're trying to look at your left toes. And release back to centre. Same on the other side, pushing that left arm down slightly, right fingertips on the left hand side of the cheek, pushing, or gently pulling should I say, the head over to the right. Nice stretch down that neck. Releasing back to centre, just looking slightly to the right, right hand behind the back of the head, chin comes down towards that chest. And back to that middle, just circling those shoulders just a few times for me. Maybe forward and back, maybe shaking that head yes and no. And then last thing, I'll turn back onto my mat, is we'll do our last roll down. So feet in parallel, chin down, pelvis under. Just taking that time to roll down. And then slowly restacking all the way back up. The last thing to come up should be the head and the shoulders. And you are done. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I look forward to seeing you soon.